My name is Daniel Carter. I'm a 37-year-old high school history teacher living in a small town in Ohio. Life here is quiet, predictable, the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and everyone knows your business. I've been married to my college sweetheart, Laura, for 12 years, and we have a 9-year-old daughter, Emma, who's the light of my life. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said my life was perfect. Stable. Happy. But everything changed on an ordinary Wednesday morning. I was sitting in my classroom, sipping coffee while reviewing a lesson plan on the Revolutionary War. My phone buzzed on the desk. Expecting a reminder or maybe a message from Laura, I picked it up. The text wasn't from Laura. It wasn't even from a number I recognized. The message was brief but sent a chill down my spine. We need to talk. Your wife isn't who you think she is. For a moment, I stared at the screen, convinced it had to be some kind of prank or a scam. But as much as I tried to dismiss it, something about the words nagged at me. I glanced at the number. No name, no previous messages. Just an area code from 2 states away. Shaking it off, I locked my phone and went back to my lesson. Or at least, I tried to. The words from that text kept creeping back into my mind, disrupting my focus. Who would send something like that? Why? At lunch, curiosity got the better of me. I stepped outside and called the number. It rang twice before someone answered, a man with a low, calm voice. Daniel, he said, as if we were old friends. Who is this? I asked, my voice firmer than I felt. There was a pause, then, let's just say I'm someone who knows the truth. You deserve to know it too. My grip on the phone tightened. What truth? If this is some kind of joke, I swear. It's no joke, the man interrupted, his voice steady but cold. Your wife has been lying to you, Daniel. For years. My chest tightened as anger flared. Who the hell are you? If you don't explain yourself, I'm hanging up. There was a long silence. I could hear him breathing on the other end, as if deliberating. Finally, he said, meet me at Murphy's Diner on Route 67. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Come alone. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I stood there in the chilly November air, the weight of his words pressing down on me. What kind of absurdity had I just stepped into? Was this some scam? A case of mistaken identity? Or, God forbid, was he telling the truth? When I got home that evening, Laura greeted me with her usual warmth, a kiss on the cheek, dinner on the table, and stories about Emma's day at school. She seemed so normal, so Laura. The idea that she could be hiding something significant, felt ridiculous. But as the hours ticked by, the man's words burrowed deeper into my mind. I started noticing things I never had before, the way Laura's smile didn't quite reach her eyes when I asked about her day, or how she quickly changed the subject when I mentioned her late-night work calls. The next day, I went through the motions at school, distracted and on edge. By the time 7 p.m. rolled around, I found myself pulling into the parking lot of Murphy's Diner. It was a dingy little place with peeling paint and flickering neon lights. Inside, a man in his mid-40s sat in a corner booth. He wore a plain black jacket and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He didn't look up as I approached. You're Daniel, he said, motioning for me to sit. And you're the guy who thinks he knows my wife better than I do, I replied, sliding into the booth. He finally looked up, and his eyes, gray and unflinching, met mine. I don't just think, Daniel. I know. Start talking, I demanded. The man leaned forward. Laura isn't just some woman working an office job and raising a kid. She's part of something much bigger. Something dangerous. I almost laughed. Dangerous? You expect me to believe. He cut me off, pulling out a thick manila envelope and sliding it across the table. Look for yourself. I hesitated before opening it. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Grainy but unmistakable. Laura, meeting with strangers in dark parking lots, handing over envelopes, and in one particularly jarring image, holding what looked like a gun. My stomach churned as I flipped through the pictures. This couldn't be real. It had to be a setup. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "The truth," the man said simply. "Laura is working for a cartel. She launders their money, and if she's not careful, she'll drag you and your daughter down with her." My hands shook as I shoved the photos back into the envelope. "You're insane," I said, my voice low but seething. "There's no way this is true. Laura isn't, she couldn't." The man leaned back, folding his arms. "You think I'd waste my time making this up? Look closer. Those photos were taken last month. She's been doing this for years, Daniel. You're just too blind to see it." Anger flared in me, but beneath it was a creeping doubt. The timestamps on the photos did show recent dates. And the woman in them, her build, her face, it was undeniably Laura. I wanted to scream at the guy, demand proof that this wasn't some elaborate lie. Instead, I asked the one question I couldn't ignore: "Why are you telling me this? What's in it for you?" He sighed, like he'd been waiting for me to ask. "Because you're her weak spot. The people she works for know that. They'll use you and your daughter as leverage if they have to. I've seen it happen before. If you don't get ahead of this, it won't end well for any of you." I clenched my fists under the table. "And what am I supposed to do with this? Go home and accuse my wife of working for a cartel? Do you even understand what you're saying?" The man didn't flinch. "I know exactly what I'm saying. You need to confront her, carefully. Find out how deep she's in. And if she won't come clean, you need to get out. Take Emma and run." I stood abruptly, grabbing the envelope. "You're out of your mind." He didn't try to stop me. "You've got my number," he said as I walked away. "Call me when you're ready to face the truth." That night, I sat in my car outside our house, staring at the photos in my lap. My head was spinning. Was Laura really capable of something like this? Could the woman I'd built my life with, the mother of my child, be living a double life? When I finally stepped inside, Laura was in the kitchen, washing dishes. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, you're home late. Everything okay?" I forced a nod. "Yeah, just a long day." She dried her hands and came over, planting a kiss on my cheek. "Well, dinner's in the fridge if you're hungry." Her touch felt different now, like a stranger's. I couldn't look at her without picturing the photos, the envelopes, the gun. I mumbled something about being tired and headed to bed early, leaving her to finish cleaning up. Lying in the dark, I replayed the man's words over and over. Every time I thought about confronting Laura, my chest tightened. What if he was wrong? What if I accused her of something this insane, and it destroyed our marriage? But what if he was right? The next day, I decided I needed more answers. I started by checking Laura's phone, not something I'd ever done before. She kept it locked, but I'd seen her enter the code enough times to remember. When she stepped into the shower, I unlocked it and began scrolling. At first, everything seemed normal. Messages from friends, emails about work, photos of Emma. But then I found a folder hidden deep in her Notes app, protected by a separate password. My stomach sank. I guessed Emma's birthday, and to my surprise, it opened. Inside were lists of transactions, amounts, dates, initials. Each one was marked as cleared or pending. They didn't make sense to me at first, but the numbers were huge, far beyond anything Laura's office job could explain. Before I could dig deeper, Laura's voice called from the bathroom. "Honey, can you grab me a towel?" I quickly locked the phone and tossed it back onto the nightstand, my heart pounding. I couldn't sleep that night. The list of transactions haunted me, each number growing heavier in my mind. By the time the sun rose, I was convinced I couldn't let this go. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. That morning, Laura left the house early, claiming she had a work meeting in the city. She kissed Emma goodbye, grabbed her bag, and drove off like it was any other day. I waited until her car disappeared down the street, then I made my move. Laura had a small, locked drawer in her home office, a space I rarely entered. I'd always respected her privacy, but today was different. I grabbed a screwdriver from the garage and forced the lock open. Inside was a black notebook, a burner phone, and a USB drive. My hands shook as I flipped through the notebook. Names, addresses, dollar amounts, pages and pages of them. Some were marked with stars, others crossed out. It didn't take long to realize this wasn't some innocent ledger. The burner phone was even worse. It contained dozens of texts, all from unknown numbers. Most were short, cryptic messages. Drop confirmed. Next shipment arrives Tuesday. Payment due by end of month. One message, sent just a few days ago, froze me in my tracks. He's asking too many questions. If it becomes a problem, handle it. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. Were they talking about me? I plugged the USB drive into my laptop, half expecting it to be empty or corrupted. Instead, a series of video files popped up. I clicked on the first one, and what I saw nearly made me vomit. It was Laura, sitting in a dark room, speaking in a low voice to a man I didn't recognize. The account's ready. Just make sure the cash clears by Friday. Another video showed her exchanging what looked like duffel bags in an abandoned warehouse. My wife, the woman who volunteered at Emma's school bake sales, looked cold, calculating. Like someone I didn't know. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling. By the time Laura got home that evening, I was a wreck. I tried to act normal, but every smile, every word from her felt like poison. After Emma went to bed, Laura sat down beside me on the couch. You've been quiet all day. Everything okay? I looked at her, my mind racing. Should I confront her now? Or would that make things worse? I've just been tired, I lied, forcing a smile. Work's been a lot lately. She tilted her head, studying me. You sure? You seem off. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at the screen, then quickly turned it face down. My stomach twisted. I'll be right back, she said, standing and heading toward the kitchen. The moment she was out of sight, I grabbed her phone and unlocked it. The message then had just come in read, we need to meet. There's a problem with Carter. Carter. My last name. My heart felt like it stopped. I barely had time to process before Laura came back, her expression tense. What are you doing with my phone? I froze, holding it in my hand like a guilty kid caught stealing. Who's Carter? I demanded. Her face darkened. Give me my phone, Daniel. No, I snapped, standing up. You're going to tell me what the hell is going on, Laura. Right now. For a moment, I thought she might deny everything. But then her expression shifted, cold, sharp, like a mask falling away. You shouldn't have done that, she said quietly. The room felt suffocating. Who are you? I whispered. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm your wife, Daniel. The same woman I've always been. You're just finally seeing the parts one kept hidden, for your own good. For my own good? My voice rose. You're working with criminals. Laundering money, making deals, God knows what else. Were you ever going to tell me, or was I just supposed to stay clueless forever? Her eyes narrowed. I did this for us. For Emma. You think your teacher's salary is enough to give her the life she deserves? Everything I've done has been to protect this family. Protect us? I shot back. You've put a target on our backs. She took a step closer, her voice low and dangerous. You don't understand, Daniel. And you don't want to. You need to let this go, forget what you've seen. For your sake and Emma's. Her words terrified me more than the photos, the messages, or the videos ever could. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a threat. That night, while she slept, I packed a bag for Emma and me. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew we couldn't stay. As I drove through the dark streets, my phone buzzed with a new text from the unknown number. Smart move. She won't let you go that easily. The man from the diner was right. I'd uncovered the truth, but I had no idea how deep it went or how far Laura would go to keep her secrets. No, it's not the end. This is where the stakes get even higher, and the story takes a darker, more thrilling turn. Let's continue. I drove for hours, putting as much distance between us and Laura as possible. Emma was asleep in the back seat, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, unaware of the chaos tearing our lives apart. My thoughts raced. How had I missed this side of Laura for so many years? And what would she do when she woke up to find us gone? At sunrise, I pulled into a motel off the interstate. It was a shabby, rundown place, but it was quiet and far enough from home to buy us some time. I checked in under a fake name, paid cash, and carried Emma inside. She stirred as I set her on the bed. "Daddy? Where are we?" she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "Just a little trip, sweetheart," I said, forcing a smile. "Go back to sleep." She nodded, too tired to question me. I sat by the window, staring out at the empty parking lot. My phone buzzed again, another text from the unknown number. "You need to disappear completely. She'll track you." I didn't respond. Instead, I called him. "You're in over your head, Daniel," he said the moment he answered. "You think I don't know that?" I snapped. "What do I do now?" "She'll come after us, won't she?" "She will. But it's not just her you need to worry about. The people she works for, they don't leave loose ends." A cold dread settled over me. "What do they want from me?" "To ensure your silence. Permanently, if they have to. You're a liability now, Daniel." I glanced at Emma, sleeping peacefully. The thought of her being dragged into this nightmare made my stomach churn. How do I keep her safe? The man hesitated. "You have to disappear for real. New names, new identities. I know someone who can help, but it won't be easy or cheap." "I'll do whatever it takes," I said without hesitation. "Then meet me at the rest stop off I-70, mile marker 92, tonight at 8. Don't bring your phone. Leave nothing that can track you." The hours crawled by. Every sound outside the motel made me jump. By the time 8 p.m. rolled around, my nerves were shot. I left Emma with a cartoon playing on the motel TV, told her I'd be back soon, and drove to the rest stop. The man was waiting in a beat-up pickup truck, his face hidden under a baseball cap. He motioned for me to get in. "You're sure about this?" he asked as I slid into the passenger seat. "I don't have a choice," I said. He nodded and handed me a burner phone. "I'll contact the people who can set this up. But you need to understand, once you go through with this, there's no going back. No contact with anyone from your old life. Not even her. Her. Laura." Despite everything, part of me still struggled to reconcile the woman I'd married with the criminal mastermind she'd become. "How did you even find out about her?" I asked. He glanced at me, his expression unreadable. "Because I used to work for them too. I know how they operate. And I know what happens to people who cross them. Why are you helping me?" He hesitated, then said, "Because I've seen what happens to families like yours. If I can stop it from happening again, maybe I can live with myself." Back at the motel, I packed our things and prepared to leave for the new location he'd arranged. But as I reached for the door, there was a loud knock. "Daniel," a familiar voice called from the other side. "Open the door. We need to talk." It was Laura. My heart stopped. How had she found us? I motioned for Emma to stay quiet, then crept to the window. Laura stood outside, her expression calm but her eyes scanning the parking lot like a predator hunting prey. "Daniel, I know you're in there," she said, her voice firm. You can't run from this. Open the door, and we'll figure it out together. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I backed away, my mind racing. She wasn't alone. Two men stood by a black SUV parked a few feet away, watching the room. The burner phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from the man. They're there. Don't engage. Use the back window and run. I grabbed Emma, who was wide-eyed with fear. Daddy, what's happening? She whispered. Shoo, it's okay, sweetheart, I said, forcing calm into my voice. We're playing a game. We have to be really quiet, okay? She nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit as I pried open the back window. I helped her climb out, then followed, keeping low as we crept toward the car. Just as I reached the driver's side, a voice shouted behind me. Stop right there. I froze, holding Emma tightly as the shout echoed through the parking lot. Laura's voice followed, sharp and commanding. Daniel, don't do this. Don't make me choose between you and them. I turned to see her standing a few yards away, flanked by the two men from the SUV. One of them had a hand inside his jacket, and I didn't need to guess what he was reaching for. Stay back. I yelled, trying to shield Emma. My heart pounded as I fumbled for the car door. Laura took a step forward, her hands raised. I don't want you hurt, Daniel. But you need to come with me. We can fix this. For Emma's sake. Her tone was calm, almost pleading, but her eyes betrayed her, cold, calculating, and ready to strike. I didn't trust her. I couldn't. Stay where you are. I shouted again, finally wrenching the car door open. I shoved Emma into the back seat and slid into the driver's seat. Laura's mask cracked. You're making a mistake, she screamed. One of the men reached for something inside his coat, and instinct took over. I slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching as I backed up at full speed. The man dove out of the way, and I spun the car around, gunning it toward the exit. A loud pop rang out, a gunshot. My heart seized, but when I glanced in the rearview mirror, Emma was unharmed, clutching her stuffed rabbit with wide, tear-filled eyes. It's okay, baby, I said, my voice trembling. We're okay. We drove for hours, taking back roads and switching directions until I was sure we weren't being followed. By the time we reached the next safe house, a remote cabin deep in the woods, I was running on pure adrenaline. The man from the diner was waiting for us. He stepped out of his truck as I pulled up, his expression grim. She didn't let you go easily, did she? He asked. No, I said, carrying Emma inside. But we're here now. What's next? He nodded toward the cabin. This is temporary. My contact is working on new identities. Once you're set up, you'll be relocated. No phones, no credit cards, nothing that ties you to your old life. I hesitated, looking down at Emma. She was so small, so innocent. How could I explain to her that we could never go home, never see her friends, her school, or even her mother again? I don't know if I can do this, I admitted. The man's expression hardened. If you don't, she'll find you. And if she doesn't, the people she works for will. You want Emma to have a chance? This is the only way. The next few days passed in a blur of tension and fear. Every sound outside the cabin made me jump. Emma sensed the unease, but I did my best to shield her from the truth. Finally, the man returned with a folder containing new passports, IDs, and a small wad of cash. This is it, he said. A fresh start. You head north tomorrow morning. There's a town near the border where you'll meet someone who can help you cross. After that, you're on your own. I nodded, feeling the weight of the decision settle over me. That night, as Emma slept, I sat by the window, staring out at the moonlit forest. My thoughts drifted to Laura. Was she still searching for us? Did she regret what she'd done, or was she too far gone to care? Part of me wanted to believe there was still good in her, that the woman I'd fallen in love with was buried beneath the lies. but I couldn't risk finding out. The next morning, we left the cabin before dawn, the man's truck rumbling behind us as he led the way. At the edge of the woods, he stopped and handed me a piece of paper with an address scribbled on it. "Go here," he said. "It's safe. For now." I shook his hand, grateful but overwhelmed. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." He hesitated, then said, "Because I've made mistakes too. And if I can help one person escape this life, maybe it'll mean something." With that, he drove off, leaving us alone on the road. As Emma and I crossed the border that night, I looked back one last time, knowing we could never return. The life we'd built, the love we'd shared, it was all gone, buried under lies and betrayal. But as I held Emma's hand, her small fingers gripping mine tightly, I realized we still had each other. And no matter where we ended up, that was enough. For now.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to click that button. I put a lot of effort into searching through Reddit so you can enjoy the stories I found just for you. You already know what to do. Comment what you think about this story. I'll respond to you. See you in the next video.